There's no way I'm out. Go. Go. So this should be roughly 150 feet. What is up everyone, Talon here and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about the replica right here in front of me. This being the ASG Scorpion EVO, one of the more modern, iconic SMG replicas available currently on the airsoft market. This one is secondhand to me. I want to preface that first and foremost. This one is a friend of mine who left in my vehicle when we went to an op. He might know that I still have it in my possession. I have tried to reach out to him to see if he wants it back. He hasn't gotten back to me, so I said, screw it. The least that I'm going to do is at least borrow it for a couple of videos. So, you know, that's gonna be my payment, as it were, in order to hold on to his stuff for him. Because I'm still a good buddy, I still want to give it to him, and there's a couple other things that I want to give him as well. What we're talking about is this battery-powered airsoft replica that has been on the market for the last several years. I think it came at a point during the airsoft industry where there was not a whole lot of modern, modern replicas available on the market. There were certainly some MP5s that had a lot of Picatinny on them. This came right before the ARP-9, several years before the ARP-9s. We had the gas blowback vector that had died out. This had come along. So I think that it was fitting within a niche, within a pocket of airsoft players that were looking for the hyper modern that was very unique because it was so new within the real world that they wanted to get it into their possession. And so I thought it was unique that ASG, with their CZ trademark or license they had available to them, would go something in this direction. Now, small little tangent. ASG does not know who I am, doesn't know anything about me. So everything that I say is of my own opinion. When it comes to the ASG lineup, I think the Bren is another direction that they're going in a positive manner. Again, it's been I think I had the Bren for a limited times in my possession. That is a type of replica that I would like to see done more often within the airsoft realm, because again, it kind of fits that niche, that pocket of unique. However, there's not a whole lot of backing from the airsoft player base in order to continue to push that product and really drive a lot of innovation, making sure we're getting good quality controls and getting new iterations of that product. The ASG Evo, however, has a lot more usage behind it, and thus we have several variations. We have the short barrel configuration that we have here, we have a medium, and then we have a long barrel length as well that are available on the market. The Bren, I think, also comes in these, but again, it is not nearly as prevalent as the Evo that I have here in front of me, being the PDW replica that it is. So this one is a battery-powered system. It has the battery up in the front handguard system. Out of the box, typically shoots around 370 feet per second. There's a couple of things that this brought forth to the table within the industry that was definitely a positive, and I think was a good influence for a lot of other manufacturers in bringing a lot of convenience for the players specifically. Bio 2.0s. All right, so our range here is all the way down from 265 to, I saw 319. Okay, so we had one flyaway at 265. Otherwise, I think the lowest is 310. All the way up to 319. We're gonna skip that flyaway at 295. So a fluctuation of 9 feet per second in the lower 300s, which is not bad. This does make it a pretty ideal outdoor rifle in particular. That is usable. I can do quite a bit of work with that. Now it means that from point A to point B, from where my muzzle is to where my target is, it's a greater period of time from the BB to leave the barrel to hit my target, which again in airsoft is extremely minimal, but the physics is there from point A to point B. That still flew really, really straight. So I'd be really, really interested to see what the accuracy is. For the price point of the Evo itself, it is a little bit more expensive because innately it does have a lot more things going on. Overall, it is a all polymer configuration, battery powered up in the handguard here, but in order to get access to the battery compartment space, it's actually overall pretty convenient. Now, we'll get to that in a second. Some of the things that the Evo is doing as well is with the magazines that we have here, it does have an empty magazine detection system. For the time, there was not a lot of empty magazine detection systems getting produced, innovated on the market. So this was one of the things that the Evo does really well. And for how old this Evo is in particular and how much usage it has seen over the years, the fact that it's still able to do it really well and consistently, awesome. I do recall back in the day that we did have a lot more replicas that were featuring burst in tandem with our safe, semi, and full auto. So this does have a very small switch window between the 4 different selections: our safe, semi, our burst, and then our full auto. Now again, this one has had a little bit more use and a lot more wear over time. So that window the window is still there as far as where you're moving the selector from those different firing positions. However, the detent and the springs that hold that selector in place, or at least help define where those windows are. So if I'm sitting behind the gun, and it's airsoft, so it doesn't matter nearly as much, but if I'm sitting here behind the replica and I'm going from safe to semi to burst to full auto, from semi-burst and full auto, the spring has been worn enough to where those detents, those windows, are much smoother to get access to. So I've had it a couple of times where I thought I was on semi, I was actually in burst by accident. I've also had it to where I was in safe, but it was actually in semi for some odd reason. And it was simply a matter of unplugging the battery, plugging the battery back in, and then how it identified where that selector switch was able to correctly identify what the selector selection was at. Towards the back of the replica here, we have, amongst the list of features that make this innately unique, it was one of the earlier ones that also come with a quick change spring system. And when I say quick change spring system, back in the day, it used to be that these airsoft manufacturers would advertise a quick change spring system, when in reality, the gearbox inherently was a quick change spring system, but getting access to that quick change spring system was farther from quick. It was actually a big pain in the ass. I would still need to have to undo the grip, remove the upper receiver, remove the stock, undo our selector switches, our magazine releases, get the receiver pin out of the way, pull the gearbox all the way out in order to get access to that spring system. And I still have a tray or a tabletop full of parts that would need to go back together once I have that spring changed, go up to that chrono, confirm that that's the spring I'm looking for. Hopefully it was the right spring, because if it wasn't, I had to repeat that process all the way over, and it wasn't inherently that much quicker. This one, I know, was one of the early ones that actually, as long as you have that bolt, or at least a really good thumb grip, you can press in, rotate that spring guide rod out, and out comes your spring. So that made it so much easier whether you were taking your indoor gun outdoors or your outdoor gun indoors. As long as you have those 2 springs and you know which 2 they are, go up to the firing line for your chronograph, do your couple of test shots, zip, zip. Oh, that's my indoor spring, and I'm playing outdoors. I want to grab my outdoor spring, fold that, get that spring out, put the new one in, back in, lock, shot, you're good to go. That made this so much easier, and I feel like was a huge draw from the player market to help get this into their collections. It was also, does feature a locking bolt to the rear. It's not like some type of weird replica where you have to pull your bolt back and engage the imitation bolt release in order to hold your imitation bolt open in order to access your hop-up unit. This one, as long as you pull it back, it stays open. And then your bolt release serves as a two function. So the first function is when you have that imitation bolt locked backwards to adjust your hop up, hit that imitation bolt release and it's gonna lock it forward. And again, that had, this replica has the empty magazine detection system. So once you fire your last round, it's not gonna turn itself over. It's not gonna dry fire. So that means rip your magazine out, grab a fresh one, insert it, hit your imitation bolt release, and that's gonna get the system kicked over and firing again. So that is essentially the quick rundown of the Evo and a lot of the really cool features and functions of the Evo. Now, I wanna spend some time and I wanna go over it a little bit more in depth, doing a tip to butt, playing with this in my limited capabilities indoors. This actually performed really, really, really well. I was not gonna be too shocked for how old this was, and knowing the current owner, no, he's not exactly the nicest when it comes to some of his replicas. He is nicer to this one, and like I said, it is a little bit more age, and it shows its age. He's done a few minor upgrades. One of the upgrades that he has done was a tight bore inner barrel. However, when it came to actually putting the tight bore inner barrel in, he did not spec this tight bore accurately to this. He simply had a spare tight bore inner barrel that was for a different replica, and he installed it and just cut the inner barrel right to the length that he was looking for, like what I did similarly with my, pretty similar to what I did with my LM4, where I cut my barrel in half and I wanted to get my barrel length exactly where I wanted it, but I didn't want to get an extra one. I just wanted to test it out and see that it worked. This is actually the configuration that you would typically get it from or directly out of the box. So I have here two pieces. One is my tracer unit, the Bifrost, that I utilized in tandem with my indoor gameplay. And this is actually the adapter. The ASG Evo does not come as a 14mm counterclockwise thread for your standard tracer unit. It actually comes with an 18mm. And it actually comes with a different type of muzzle device. So you would need to get your, what I have on here is currently the lock that would come with it. You would have an extra piece that would sit right here, and that is your Scorpion EVO flash hider, which is kind of similar to what the real one's gonna have. Now the lock here is designed to, this piece that I'm unscrewing right now, is designed to lock your handguard to the receiver or to the body of the replica. So this piece you need no matter if you are utilizing the stock out of the box birdcage or flash hider, or if you're going to get this adapter. So if I put just this adapter on there, it doesn't go down far enough, and then your handguard is now really loose and is gonna get all sorts of jacked up with your battery. So you need to still use your barrel nut that we have here and the adapter in tandem. So we have here a muzzle adapter to go from the large 16mm down to a 14mm. And we have here a, unfortunately cut Mad Bull inner barrel, but that is the previous owner's prerogative. That was what they decided to do. And we take that barrel nut, that second one, and we pull that off. And now we're able to pull that front handguard off completely. Now, because of the height of the receiver here, we have a little bit of compartment space for fitting that battery inside of. So we can push that battery inwards like so, give it a connection. I really hope that there's some juice in here still. I heard a beep. There it is. So we've got juice still. Sick. Just as a like a heads up, that battery was charged a couple months ago. Now, unfortunately, the charging handle needs to sit in conjunction with all of the wires here. So that's the unfortunate thing about having a battery powered system, is that once you get into small, tight spaces like this, you have to make sure that everything is fitting and aligning without getting pinched. And so I can't force it. Something's not lining up. There we go. Okay, now we're tight. Making sure that the handguard doesn't come loose again. I'm gonna take that barrel nut, just go finger tight on that, right? I don't need to go loose. And then my muzzle adapter to go on top of that if I wanted to run a tracer unit or some other type of device, right? The way that this is angled and cut on the very top here, it's easier to grab up like this in order to get a good grip onto your replica, on the Evo in particular. Around the body of the mass of the handguard, it's much harder because there's so much length or height to the handguard. It's harder to get a good grip onto, and it's such a weird orientation that you're kind of chicken winging by the time that you find where your grip is. So you gotta play with it. You gotta try to figure out what is the best for you. I am a person where I prefer a vert grip, a shorter vert grip, and I grab around the handguards. This, I ended up either doing the cup position or folding this into the vert grip if I needed to transition shoulders, which I know is a little weird that I would do one over the other. That's just one of the things that I've worked around with. So figure out what's good for you and what will work for you. Now, working our way backwards, we would get to where the magazines reside. The magazines are about 80 rounds of capacity. Compared to other replicas, where the magazine capacity is 120, or with the modern PTS magazines, these can hold up to 250 rounds. PTS just released new updated magazines, and I think that these will hold 100 rounds. So still, not a lot of capacity. The base magazines for the Evos are also hella expensive due to that empty magazine detection system. I don't know with the PTS magazines if they will continue to have that built in. As of right now, those have been announced, they've been shipping. They've just hit a couple of distributors such as Paladin Airsoft for all of my local Wisconsin guys. He's gonna have a lot of the PTS stuff, so find link to him down in the description below. He is carrying a lot of these. Like he just received these on time of recording, so I haven't done any type of testing, nor has anyone seen any type of gameplay with those. So if you're looking for information on those, stay tuned or just be a little patient because again, not a whole lot of people as of right now have their hands on those. So when we're talking 80 rounders compared to 250 rounders, it's pretty difficult to have an even match when the other players on the other team can sling a lot more BBs at the same rate of fire. So inherently, I felt that this was not too far removed from the concept or practice of a gas blowback, where you're very limited as far as what you're capable of doing or what your options are available to you immediately. You have to be very cognizant at making those good shots and making them count, being very tactical, being meticulous with your movements, and knowing what the plan is several steps before you actually make it. So that was the challenges with this, but I'm also used to running a gas blowback, so I didn't feel too far removed from my normal playability with compared to a gas blowback. And even given how old this is and how kind of cheaply done that inner barrel was, it's a Type 4 inner barrel, but it was still cut at an odd angle. It still performed really well, very consistent, very accurate time and time again. I did not run an optic on this when I was running indoors. I had my tracer unit, so if my shot was off, it was very easy for me to make a quick micro adjustment of shot, hey, that one's off, micro adjust, shot, and I'm right on target. So I felt that was easy, very nice. Again, pretty limiting, a small challenge, but I could work through it. From that target to just past the lumber there was about 150 feet. So if I come, I'd probably say right about here, it's about 75 feet. So split this into thirds. This here seems to be about 25 feet. I'm just gonna aim off to the side here. Oh, let's put that on semi. Okay. Could do with a little more height, but who cares? All right, that was our 5. Because we have 4 points of selection, I've noticed that the selector switch is extremely finicky. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 25 feet, that is really good. For no optic attached, I can see why my buddy has been able to do work with this. All right, I said that was roughly 25. We'll say right about here. So here's gonna be 50. I think I'm on safe. That might be semi. Oh, it would help if I have BBs. So I did just my 5 shots perfectly. Hit that down off to the side here. See, we're on 3-round burst for some reason. But that is semi. Okay. So we had 5 shots, 5 impacts. And then 1 drop to 5. Yeah, at 50 feet, hell yeah. All right, let's call nearly to the vehicle over there, about 100 feet. Here, we'll call this 100 feet. Now, we're for sure on semi there. Okay, 1 off to the side here. Why was that? Why are we on burst? It's definitely pointed on semi. Okay, let me go. Yeah, that's not right. Let's do this. Okay, off to the side here. My 1 shot, okay. Okay, that was my 5 shots. I'm still on safe, but I still have my 1 shot. That seems a little bit backwards. So we had 3 hits on paper. And it looks like we had a light strike here, a light strike here, and this kind of looks like a spot, but I'm pretty sure I had that there previously. We're gonna leave that. I'm pretty sure that that was there before. So I don't know where our potentially 3rd shot was. Let's go a little bit further. I'm feeling, now these are 2-0s. Keep in mind that these are 2-0s. So I'm pretty confident that I might be able to go to the far piece of lumber over there and potentially get a strike on there. Now, for context, in the case of airsoft, you don't need a hard BB in order to like count as a kill. You just need the BB to hit them. So even if it's a light strike, granted, with 2-0s, they don't have enough kinetic energy to really put enough force into a piece of kit. That's what the benefit of heavier weight is. So heavier weight has more kinetic energy to impact on a hit. However, heavier weight, as we know, does require more energy from the barrel in order to actually send it really, really, really far. And it looks like we ran out of battery space or memory space. Oh my God, can you Get out of my... If I can make these shots with 2 O's, I'm on X Games mode. I gotta close my door. Now it's gonna be a hot minute from a shot to impact. As far as yew tree, oh, you've got these little thorns here. This is not a very comfortable spot. So this should be roughly 150 feet. I've got one more, I think, that I've got loaded up. And what I'm doing is I'm just trying to arch the BBs up. There's a lot of right to left wind variance. Oh, that is strong wind. Okay, we're all Dunskis shooting. Let's see where we hit. So I don't see any clear indication of BB strikes. There seems like there's one spot right here. I know that this spot was already there, that spot was already there. But I'm not really seeing anywhere else that would indicate a BB strike. So 100 feet seems to be the end limitation of the Scorpion Evo. Not to say we probably couldn't get it to go much further, but if any BBs did bounce off, that little GoPro down there will tell us. It's a battery powered system, so the trigger innately is not designed to be smooth, especially when it comes to a MOSFET system, a micro switch where we have a semi burst in full auto. It does get a little bit clunky. Again, that spring and that retention is a little odd. So there's been a couple times where it has been in the wrong firing position and will fire correctly. Like the trigger itself will go back, I can get a shot off and there's nothing wrong with the trigger movement. But if I'm like in between a window, that's where it starts to get a little bit clicky on this model in particular. Can't say if other ASGs have worn in similar to this, but that is innately done to this model. When it comes to the upper receiver and the lower receiver, it's actually a left and a right-hand side that are bolted and interfaced together. It's not actually a traditional upper and lower like you would typically see on a traditional AR or MP5 or anything else for that matter. So as far as a design, that's really the only thing externally that differentiates itself from other replicas. So with those bolts along the body for the upper receiver, it's not super clean, but when I'm playing, it's not a concern of mine, right? This is not my wall hanger, so I'm not concerned about the bolts. And when I'm out and playing, the concern isn't how good it looks, it's how well it performs. That's one thing that I am looking for, that I can only speak for myself. And getting back to that teching point, the grip here is built into the lower receiver. So if you're trying to get a different type of vertical grip or a more angled grip for that angle of engagement, this one's gonna be a little bit harder to try to work with and around because that grip is just built in the lower. You can still swap it out for different motors. You can change your gear ratios out. I believe there's even different MOSFETs available that are a drop-in system for the ASG, but that's not something that I'm familiar with. The ASG Evo also came out a point talking about electronics at a point where there was a lot more HPA modification, integration that were getting pulled into question. Almost all the HPA systems were designed for a version 2 or a version 3 gearbox. This one is neither of those. It's actually a very unique type of HPA system or a gearbox design, especially combined with the micro switch trigger that this is designed with. So you do need to get a very specific type of FCU to work in tandem with this gearbox. Are you fucking with me?
What do you mean?
This TV keeps turning on.
I swear to God, I'm not doing anything.
Going to the rear of the receiver, this replica does have sling points. Not great sling points. From what I can identify, just these latches up here, they're very UMP-esque if you guys are familiar with kind of what those look like. And just double checking and confirming, that's pretty much it. I know that with this being a little bit shorter, you might prefer to have like a quick loop in order to sling a 1 point so that it dangles, and then you have a little bit more reach from that 1 point that you can maneuver and change with, compared to something a little bit more traditional, like a 2 point sling that I have here, is something that I prefer and something that I have gravitated towards. This one doesn't really allocate for a 2 point out of the box. There are different type of tabs and loops that you can put onto the Picatinny points. You know, you have an ample amount of Picatinny along the top here, and you have a 3, 6, and 3, 9, and 6 o'clock position for different accessory points. So if you want to allocate something on the left-hand side here, again, depending on how you grip, you might have to be careful as to where you put that sling point, but it can be done if you like doing those 2 point positions. Towards the very back here, we have our folding stock. Now, this allows for this model to be very, very, very user-friendly when it comes to finding something to put this in for transport. I have found that it has a pretty okay change of position. It's not nearly as flexible or allocate for a lot of customization compared to your traditional AR-15, but it does have more available customization for your preference compared to maybe a traditional AK where you only have the position the stock is in. So use that to your benefit. There are a couple times where, depending on what type of milsim you are doing, if that is your game, there are some times where you might have to put this underneath some type of cover if you're running as some type of civilian or militia type of faction and you're just using this as a quick cover, or you're using something as cover and then you're gonna ambush a patrol, so this quickly folds out and then you have your ambush weapon. There's also times where this might be just a casual go to the field on the weekend with your boys and get really good out of the box performance, but you're not really as dedicated as some of the other guys to where you don't have your gear case and then your secondary case and then your accessory cases and then your primary rifle cases. You might just have like a really big bag that you throw all your stuff in and then just go to the field. In the case of this replica, this is not innately designed as his first primary system. It's actually designed more so as his secondary system for indoors or his emergency backup when it comes to his milsim setups. So this, just a very simple, very easy box that you can get for cheap at Harbor Freight or pick it up from maybe one of your buddy's dads or maybe an uncle that has just like a spare case. It just folds up, just fits in the corner like so. And then not only does it hold the replica, it holds a rubber knife, backup battery, and his 6 magazines. And then it folds up. And then that is how he carries this Scorpion EVO. Very small, very lightweight, very easy to manage. Get to the field, you open it up. Hey, there's your replica and then all of your magazines. Super easy to work with. As far as getting this to work for a wide range of players, I think it fits a niche and it fits into what a lot of players are looking for. You can get, you know, really, really good out of the box performance. You can also treat this more as a realistic type of simulation replica with that empty magazine detection system. The world is your oyster. and this certainly fits within a niche. A couple of things I didn't innately like about it was, again, more of a personal gripe, is the single sling point position. Again, I'm not kind of a 1-point position type of guy, so that's really my only gripe with it. The lack of extended magazines or magazines that hold a larger capacity, right? If I wanted the option to be competitive and sling a lot of BBs compared to players that have these 250 round magazines, even drum magazines, I don't want to feel limited as a competitive player by running around with 80 rounds. There can be a time and place where I could prefer 80 round magazines, especially if maybe it's a day I don't want to run my gas blowback. Maybe I still want to simulate empty magazine detection and I still want to have to hit that bolt release and still be cognizant and aware of it. But then again, maybe later down the road, I want to be competitive, or maybe even the same day. Again, want to be competitive. A lot of HPA players that just come onto the field, you know, now I want to have a lot more magazine capacity right available. So it has covered most of my bases, but it's not 100% there. And again, it's the Evo, it's still very new. It has not exactly been considered, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not iconic. It's not a vibe nearly as far as like an MP5 replica or maybe even a UMP. It is hyper modernized. ASG has made it to where it has a lot of things going for it, but I think it's up to the player base. Again, the industry or the market can come in waves. I think there's gonna be a point where we're gonna come back to the Evo as a very strong primary source or a very good go-to for the player base. But I think we're a couple years out from that as well. So I'm glad I was able to get my hands onto it. I'm hoping I can get it back to my buddy in a timely manner, get it back to him. But for right now, I'm gonna try to get a couple more games out of it. Maybe take it outdoors if I can, because it did perform really, really, really well. So if you guys do have any further questions, put them down in the comment section below. I can only speak so far as to this replica in particular, but I'm glad I was able to get my hands onto it and at least present it to you as a potential option if you were looking for more information on the Evo and someone's 2 cents for having spent a little bit of time behind it. So again, comment section is down there. Use it to your advantage. I'm always happy to share that information with you. And that's all I have for you guys. So you guys take care, stay safe, stay positive, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.
Ah, fuck him out.
Oh no!
There we go. Do that 3-round burst. And now we're completely out. So that magazine recognizes when, or the rifle recognizes when the magazine is empty. It quits firing, so we can put it on safe, take that magazine out, load a fresh one in, hit that imitation bolt release, and continue to fire. However, it's not a loaded magazine. So let's load a couple more up.